Now let's turn our attention to number 4 here on skills check number 2. And we're going to be using properties of logarithms to help kind of expand or rewrite these really complicated logarithmic expressions. Now, what's going to be really important here to note at the start are what are some of our logarithm properties. I'm going to go ahead and actually record them over here. So some logarithm properties. So logarithm properties that I have are actually going to come in kind of three forms, okay? Or we're going to have ultimately three properties that we're going to make use of. The first is going to be what I can do if I end up with a logarithm. It could be of any base. And on the inside, what do I do if I have two items, like an x and a y, that are being multiplied together? Is there a way I can re-express this? Well, you may recall that it's possible to go ahead and rewrite this as the addition of two logarithms, one with the x and one with the y. So this is property number 1. It's commonly what we refer to as the product property for logarithms. Now, if I was to go ahead and take a look here at property number 2, this property is going to talk about what happens if I have two things inside of my logarithm that are being divided. Well, I have a very, very similar sort of result. I'm going to end up with a logarithm of x and a logarithm for y. And notice that I'm putting x first because it was the numerator and y second because it was the denominator. And now these are going to get subtracted. Okay, so this is property number 2. Property number 3 for logarithms actually is going to be telling us how we might be able to simplify down when I have something like an input raised to a power. So I'm going to put a p up there for a power. Well, this is actually a really interesting property because what it allows me to do is to say that I can actually take this exponent of p and put it as kind of like a coefficient of the logarithm and just leave x by itself to the first power on the inside. So it's almost like I've taken this power of p that's been here and we've kind of dragged it down to the front. So this is what's commonly referred to as the power rule for logarithms. Okay? So these are our three properties, and what we want to try to do is to use these to help simplify or rewrite, maybe not simplify, but rewrite or expand the logarithmic expressions here in number 4. So I'm going to take a look here at number 4a, just to try to get a sense of how this would work. So let's see here, number 4a. So I'm starting with a natural log that has an x squared, a 1 minus an x squared, all over an x cubed plus a 1 squared. Okay, so if I wanted to go ahead and start using these properties to expand this as much as possible, I might note that right away I could see that property number 2 could be useful. Because on the inside of my logarithm, I have things that are being divided. I have a whole top and a whole bottom. And so I might be able to start by rewriting this as the natural log of the numerator minus the natural log of the denominator. So x cubed plus 1, and I'll leave that as squared. Okay, now actually I can continue to break this down more because I can kind of go to each resulting logarithm now and see if there's any other manipulations I can do to it. Well, this logarithm here has two things on the inside that are being multiplied. So according to property number 1, I could separate that out into two separate logarithms and have them added together. Over here with this logarithm, I can actually note that I have something on the inside being raised to a power. And so like shown in property number 3, I can take this power of 2 and imagine pulling it down to the front. So I can write this as 2 times the natural log of x to the third plus 1. Now there's technically two more simplifications that I can do because you might notice that like I use the power rule here, I can apply that actually to each of these logarithms as well. I could take this power of 2 and bring it down to the front. And in here, I should recognize that the square root is really just a power of a 1/2 that can actually be brought down to the front as well. So this would be at least some way that I might be able to go ahead and begin to work with expanding some logarithms like this. So why is this going to be useful? Well, in the next several sections, it can be really advantageous. It can actually save us time to take a complicated logarithmic expression and kind of expand it, to take and like instead of having it bunched together in one big thing, to separate it out into smaller things. And this will help with calculating certain derivatives and also establishing certain derivative rules. Again, I'm going to leave parts B and C for you to go ahead and try on your own, but don't forget those solutions are posted up in Blackboard.